All right. So LSCNCA Lutheran Services has helped a large number of Afghans in DMV. Tell us more about it. How many families so far you have helped in, on which states, and just give us a little bit of snapshots of how many people you helped so far.
Thank you so much for your interest in Lutheran Social Services of the National Capital Area and our work to support Afghan allies. We have been providing services to refugees since right after World War II. And in July of 2021, we learned that the U.S. would begin evacuating Afghans and would be doing so through the end of August. And we are, it is our mission to welcome new neighbors to our country. It is our mission to serve those who are fleeing war and persecution. And we stood up and we said, yes, we would love to help in this effort. We consider it a great honor. These are people who have served alongside U.S. missions for years, and they deserve safety and support and are welcome. And we have served several thousand Afghan allies since the end of July. And we serve refugees in Maryland and in Virginia. And our biggest office is in Fairfax, Virginia. We also have an office in Dale City, Virginia, and one in Hyattsville, Maryland. And we've served more than 2,000 individuals in the past 5 months. And that is a record for LSSNCA. In 2017, we served about 1,625 people through our refugee program. And so we served more people in 5 months than we have ever in a year. And this was also coming after the former administration, where the policies for refugees and immigrants were much more restrictive. And so during the Trump administration, LSSNCA served about 500 people a year. Well, we went from serving 500 people a year to serving 500 people a month. And we are so grateful to be on the front lines of this response. And we couldn't do it alone. We have a very strong community around us who has been supporting us, who's been showing up as volunteers, who've been showing up with in-kind donations, have been showing up to welcome new families to the area.
Sounds great. So when it comes with a lot of people, there are also some challenges. So what are the challenges overall in your planning and strategy to deal with the newcomers and their resettlement in our areas?
Well, I would say from an operational level, one of the largest challenges was having to scale up pretty much overnight. As I mentioned, we are serving about the same number of people per month that we were serving per year in the previous administration. And we had to build the plane as we are flying it, so to speak. So we've been aggressively hiring. When this crisis began in July, we had 65 people on staff. We now have 117. So we've been recruiting and interviewing and onboarding and training people. And their orientation is, welcome to LSSNCA, here's your caseload. And so with that brings challenges, of course. And I would say another big challenge is housing. Housing in the DC metro area is very expensive. And many of those who we are serving didn't have the benefit of arriving with documents because of the chaotic nature of the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the chaotic nature of the evacuation. We have been having to apply for documents once people get here. And so what that means is there's a longer road to self-sufficiency. You're not able to be employed in the United States unless you have your legal documents. And so that means that we've been having to provide support for housing for longer than we may have for others who've arrived with documents. And so that's a financial challenge for us. Is ensuring that we are providing adequate assistance with rent until people become self-sufficient. We certainly want to walk with our families to work alongside them, to provide them the support they need until they're able to do so themselves.
Sounds great. my camera back. Here we go. All right. So also the Afghan refugees face the employment hurdle. How LSSNCA is addressing this issue for the new refugees arriving in our area?
Well, the Afghans who are arriving in our area are very highly skilled. They're very employable. I think they would be a tremendous benefit to any company or organization who wants to hire them. We hosted a job fair in November. We had more than 40 employers present at that job fair. We also had volunteers present to help with our Afghan allies on resume writing, to help them set up their LinkedIn profiles, to help them learn about US banking, and to help with interview practice. And this is a service we provide on site every day. We have a team of job developers and business liaisons, and the business liaisons are working locally with different companies to educate them on the need and to also set up relationships with LSSNCA. And then the job developers work really to match the interest and skill sets of our new neighbors with those employers that we've developed relationships with. I think this is a very highly skilled group that's come in as they've been working alongside U.S. missions for so long. Many of them speak English very well, and many of them have worked in U.S. run offices before, and so that's not so much of a hurdle. I think one of the challenges that we see is that often those who are arriving are overqualified for many of the jobs that are available. When you are a doctor, for example, in Afghanistan, you're not able to just come to the US and start practicing medicine. There is a recertification process, which is quite expensive and quite lengthy and can take several years. And so I think that's where you see people who have more advanced degrees and skills, perhaps taking more entry-level job positions while they work towards that recertification. And so that's another thing that we try and do. We have a scholarship fund every year. It runs in the spring, and we accept nominations for persons for scholarships, and recertification and additional job training would absolutely be an appropriate expense for the scholarship fund.
Sounds great. So many Afghan female refugees are among these arriving in DMV. So do you have any special program for women addressing their needs and issues as well?
We do. We have a group called the Tea Club, and that's for Afghan women. We recognize that oftentimes in the Afghan culture, women are taking care of the children and the household, and the men are working. That's not true for all families, but it is for many. And that can be isolating, because when you move to a new area, often you find your social networks, and you're able to learn the local culture by leaving the home and going into an office, or doing so virtually these days on Zoom. And so when women are doing their work from the home to take care of the home, they miss out on that opportunity. And so the Tea Club was a solution to that challenge. And the Tea Club provides training and education and English language practice, but more importantly, it also provides peer connections for women who have a similar and shared lived experience. And so they can develop relationships with other women who've been through something similar, and also with our volunteers who run that program. So they're both able to network within the community of recently arrived Afghans, and also with the community that lives in the DC metro area and that wants to be their new neighbors. And so I think that program is an example of something that really helps create belonging. It helps create that sense of camaraderie. I think moving anywhere can be really lonely. And it's so important to be able to make connections, to make friends, to meet that person that, if your toddler comes down with a fever and you need to run to the doctor, that person that you can call who can stay and watch your other child at home. And I think the Tea Club is really a conduit to forming those long-lasting friendships.
Sounds great. It's actually very interesting. I want to meet these people as well. So do you have also a cultural orientation program, at the same time mental health for our children program, which help Afghans to integrate in American society and be part of the society?
Absolutely. We provide cultural orientation as part of the services to everyone who walks through our doors. You know, moving even within the US, it can feel like you're moving to a different culture. And so, you know, imagining moving to a different country and having to learn, you know, the rules, the customs, and sometimes there are those unwritten rules. And so that's what we teach in our cultural orientation. And then we really aim to build those relationships with the larger community through our Good Neighbor Partner Program. And our Good Neighbor Partner Program works with congregations, with multi-faith coalitions, and with community groups to work alongside newly arrived families to help set up their first home in the United States, to deliver groceries, to help with transportation, taking families to different appointments while they're waiting to get their driver's license, to provide mentoring and to provide support. And that's another way that we create those long-lasting friendships with our newly arrived neighbors, with people in their neighborhoods. It's really about creating community and developing a strong community around our new neighbors.
So the last question, some refugees from other states like Wisconsin and California told VOA that they have problem in finding a place because they have no history in the US of work or credit, which is very important to rent or get a place. How do you address these issues for those in the DMV area?
Yeah, that is a challenge. And so that's where we are developing relationships with landlords. We have housing coordinators on staff, and we also have volunteers that help us cultivate leads for housing. If you are watching this and you have a housing lead in the DC metro area, please let me know. We're always interested in working with landlords who have a compassion for those who have fled persecution, war, and violence and are seeking safety here, and thus may not have you know, a credit history in the United States, or may not have a history of renting or owning in the United States. And so it's really about education, educating those landlords, and really we also write letters of support for our clients. We try and pay rent until they're able to pay rent themselves. And so we do provide that extra assurance to the landlords that we are providing financial support until our families are able to support the rent costs themselves.